Alright, so I just finished up Hood's Last Gamble here, and you can see nothing much happened in Chattanooga area, but the Confederates did find some success. Forrest ended up taking Murfreesboro here and getting, I don't know if this was an immobile supply, I just used that because when the Confederates captured Murfreesboro, they got 2 points. So Forrest ended up attacking Murfreesboro at a 1-2 and rolled a 1, which was a defender retreat, so that forced the garrison of Murfreesboro out, and he was able to snag that and get those supply points for the Confederates. And if I remember correctly, that gives occupying Murfreesboro at the end of the game gives the gives the Confederates a victory point. And then the U.S. got a victory point for Confederate losses. I did try and make a race for Tuscumbia, Alabama down there with Thomas, but didn't get there before the end of the game. So we end up with the U.S. winning with 1 victory point, which came from those strength point losses. Otherwise, it would have been, say, if the Confederates had gotten a couple more strength points. Actually, I think Confederates did get a strength point victory point, and then would have gotten the Murfreesboro victory point at the end of the game. So I actually think it's a Confederate victory, because what happened was, this was the final strength point losses, but the Confederates get a victory point there. The Union had already gotten their victory point back there, and I think that was what had pushed them to 2 victory points. The question is, where did they get the first victory point from? Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm not sure where the U.S. got that initial +1 victory point to bump them up to 2 victory points. Well, at the moment, it looks like the Confederates would have gotten it, because they would have scored the strength point loss victory point, and then the Murfreesboro victory point, which would have pushed it back to 0. So that would make it a Confederate victory. Because I did do Thomas's mandatory attack, and he succeeded, so that saved a victory point for the Union. And I'm not sure where the Union gets victory points beyond the strength point losses. So the Confederates didn't occupy. Okay, so the Union gets, never mind. The Union gets 2 victory points for occupying Chattanooga, so that bumps it back up to 2 victory points for the Union, so it is a Union victory. So I didn't realize the Confederates should have made a play for Chattanooga. So the 2 victory points for Chattanooga makes it pretty clear that this is very tough for the Union to win, or for the Confederates to win. I did get Murfreesboro sort of on a fluke roll with Forrest. You can see both these armies were disrupted at the end of the game. I couldn't get them out of the disruption, even with Schofield sitting up there in Nashville with all the bonuses that entails. He did not ended up winning. So he ended up retreating the Army of Tennessee back to Franklin. And strength point wise, the Hood's forces were pretty battered by the end of the game. But that's where we stand. It was a Union victory, kind of not unexpected. You're sort of fighting to get a Confederate victory in this game. I mean, this is a difficult period in the war for the Confederates to actually get a win. You really have to drive for Nashville. At one point, I thought I took Nashville with Forrest. I did sort of a last-ditch effort with Forrest where he did a sort of end run around Thomas and Schofield. Thomas, I think, was in Spring Hill, and Schofield had been sitting up here, still disrupted in Franklin. And Hood was able to run past. I used a couple of movement cards and pushed on Nashville and thought I had pushed A.J. Smith out of Nashville, and then realized Army of the Cumberland wasn't there at the time. It was just A.J. Smith. Thought I'd pushed him out, and then did my fortification roll and rolled a 6 for Nashville, which means the Smith was able to ignore the defender result roll. He took an extra casualty, but could ignore the defender result roll, so he stayed there. So that ended up screwing Hood out of getting Nashville. So that was where the big push on Nashville finally came apart. So I will give some thoughts and a review shortly.